In 1949, a Soviet photography team came to China, which was in a state of disrepair, and used the most advanced color film at the time to record the life of local people, as well as historical moments such as the founding ceremony of the Liberation War. However, after Stalin's death, these films were labeled with restricted access and sealed deep in the warehouse. It was not until 2017 that director Denisov discovered these never-before-seen, out-of-print images in the National Archives. After restoration and editing, he made them into a documentary, The Rebirth of China. On this basis, I used the latest technology to improve the image quality to 4K 60 frames of ultra-clear video. This moment, those precious historical years, are no longer abstract words or yellowed old photos. The expressions of street vendors hawking their wares, the smiling faces of children playing under the old city wall, the tears of people cheering in front of Tiananmen Square, instantly bring us back to that magnificent era. As the ancient capital of the Six Dynasties, Beijing is neither as foreign as Shanghai nor too southern or northern. People from all corners of the world gather here to show us the rich and colorful folk art. This physically and mentally vigorous martial artist, although he is old, but he is still very good at performing the three. The stick is still vigorous. Each move comes slowly, powerful and elegant. This majestic ancient city wall was built during the Yuan dynasty. It was expanded during the Ming and Qing dynasties. Mianzhou is 24 kilometers long. He once withstood Li Zichen's swords, guns and fire sticks. He also withstood the artillery fire of the Eight-Nation Alliance. Unfortunately, this road that witnessed countless vicissitudes of life was later demolished on a large scale under Guomorwa's proposal. Now we can only appreciate its former appearance through this historical image. Unlike Beijing, modern Shanghai is a place where foreigners do not need passports, can be registered. However, Chinese people need a lot of documents to survive in this city. After the mid-19th century, the corrupt and incompetent Qing dynasty was forced to sign a series of humiliating treaties. Large tracts of Shanghai territory were successively leased by Western powers. The streets and alleys of the past have become magnificent European-style buildings with the words "property of the British and American governments" written on them. In this land not governed by Chinese law, foreigners act recklessly and tyrannically. Countless Chinese people have suffered from bullying and enslavement. Even if Chinese people are tired and take a nap in front of the door, they will be immediately driven away. What is outrageous is that in front of the dog racing track opened by the British, there is a sign saying that Chinese and dogs are not allowed to enter. The concession is the source of all evil. The tobacco pipe casino is openly open here. The underworld led by the Green Gang is rampant. Whether it is robbery, murder, treason, as long as they escape to the concession before being arrested, they can easily escape legal punishment. This is Shanghai, a paradise built on hell. If you take a plane from the Bund to Shanghai, you will see an oriental magic city with tall buildings and a foreign land with bright lights and wine. If you row a boat along the river and you will see another Shanghai. These refugees from the countryside drifted along the canal to avoid the war and docked at the Suzhou River. Because the rent in the city was high, they used the boat as their home, eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, growing old, getting sick and dying on it, becoming the so-called mountain and water people. When the boat was in chaos, they used the boat awning to trap mud and reeds and built a simple straw hut on the shore as a shelter. It was dark and damp, surrounded by mud and feces, and filled with a foul odor. Once they got the plague, they died in rows. Not only did the civilians, there was no place to dry when they were alive. Even when they died, they were thrown directly into the river. They would be left unburied. Everyone was buried. Falling in the gutter was like a coffin. In a sense, they were the scum that was abandoned after being squeezed dry by the city. At that time, such low-class poor people accounted for about half of the total population of Shanghai. On weekdays, most men made a living by pulling carts and moving goods. They were skinny and wore straw sandals. They pulled those fat gentlemen and ladies and ran around the streets all day. After my mother-in-law paid the dues to the car dealer, she only had half of her income left to support herself. After layers of exploitation, their lives are difficult. Only 3% of people can realize their dream of buying a car like Xiangzi. Pulling a rickshaw for a living seems to be a way to survive, but in fact it is a dead end. According to the insurance records of rickshaw drivers in Shanghai in 1936, 95% of rickshaw drivers were paid for death. In other words, they died of exhaustion. Their average life expectancy is only 43 years old. It can be said that as long as a person pulls a rickshaw, he is sentenced to a suspended death penalty. People who don't have the service to pull rickshaws can only go to the docks to do hard labor such as loading and unloading. The physical exertion is about the same as pulling a rickshaw, 6 times the size of a car. Under normal circumstances, it is difficult for a coolie to support a family of 5 with his meager income. In order to supplement the family income, the wife can only sew some insoles and socks and sell them on the street. Younger children take their younger brothers and sisters, looking for scraps that can be sold in the garbage dump. If someone does not even have a capital, they can only live by begging. On Nanjing Road, the most prosperous in the Far East, it is crowded with old, weak, sick and disabled beggars everywhere. Orphans and widows curled up in the cold wind, seemingly silently mocking the prosperity of this city. However, water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it. In 1946, Chiang Kai-shek tore up the Armistice Agreement and launched a full-scale civil war. At that time, the Kuomintang had an army of 4 million, including 167 wing divisions and 39 American divisions. These troops were not only well-equipped and equipped with Western military advisors, but also obtained the guns and ammunition that the U.S. military won in the Pacific War. In contrast, the PLA had only a little over 1 million troops, of which 400,000 were not regular troops. But in just 3 years, the Kuomintang was defeated and dismantled. There were many reasons why the PLA was able to turn the tide, such as the strategic vision of both sides and the factions within the Kuomintang, each with its own slogans. But the most fundamental point is the people's hearts. Since the victory of the anti-Japanese war, the corrupt Kuomintang has been levying heavy taxes and extorting money in the recovered areas. There is still a song circulating on the streets of Peking, thinking of Chiang Kai-shek, looking forward to Chiang Kai-shek. When Chiang Kai-shek comes, rice and flour prices will rise. Hope the central government will suffer more when the central government comes. In the late period of the Civil War, the Kuomintang, which was at its end, was arresting men everywhere, robbing food, and even setting fire to people and burning villages. Wherever the People's Liberation Army went, they abided by the strict discipline of the people, never damaged crops, and did not take a single needle or thread from the masses. They even helped the people fetch water, grow vegetables, and do farm work.